Namaste and greetings. Hello and welcome to the Center for Spiritually Integrated Arts, a Centers for Spiritual Living teaching center. I am Reverend Dr. Raymont Anderson, the founding minister and the spiritual director. If you have questions about what is a teaching center, who is Reverend Dr. Raymont Anderson, what is Centers for Spiritual Living? What is metaphysical spirituality? Feel free to send an email to spirituallyintegratederarts@gmail.com. The website with tons of information will be available soon. In the meantime, feel free to follow us, to join us, to subscribe via Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and our YouTube channel. For more information, as I said, send an email. Look for us. Join us. I look forward to chatting with you more very soon. Much love, appreciation, and all of that. Blessings. Namaste and greetings. Hello and welcome to May 21st. In case you didn't know, today after our Sunday message, we have once again the opportunity to come together, to gather, to fellowship, to chit-chat, to converse, to get to know one another. If you don't already have the Zoom link, be sure to send an email to spirituallyintegratederarts@gmail.com and the Zoom link will be sent to you. Other than that, as soon as the Sunday message completes and we do our closing prayer, head over to Zoom and we will begin our fellowship. Now, if you are ready, did you know that on Wednesday nights, there is an opportunity to study and expand your awareness of science of mind and spirit? From 7 to 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Zoom, send an email once again to spirituallyintegratederarts@gmail.com and the link will be sent to you. And did you know that Thursday night, see, if this is your first time, after my message, I end with a series of questions, things to contemplate and get the energy moving, the juices moving with contemplation and consideration and meditation. And on Thursday night, Tracy Rhymes facilitates the Thursday night study group from 7 to 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Unless it's 7:30. I think I'm pretty sure it's 7 to 8:30. And if you need the link for that, feel free to send an email to spirituallyintegratederarts@gmail.com and I will forward it to Tracy and she will send you the link for Thursday night. Now, that being said, are you ready for this week's message? Twinkle, twinkle, little star. But is it a little star? See, stars shine all the time. We need the nighttime in order to see them, but they're still shining. They're still in the heavens, in space, shining, even during daylight. As a matter of fact, daylight, the sun, is a star. Stars are always shining. And yet, without the darkness, we oftentimes don't see them, don't notice them, and can't look directly at them. See, even the sun, we can't look directly at it. But we need the darkness, we need the nighttime in order to be able to truly see the stars in the heavens. And just like an artist who does drawing, they need shading, they need shadow on the drawing to turn a two-dimensional shape into a three-dimensional form. Breathe. Because there is a complementary partnership, a synergy between light and shadow, yin, yang. There is the cooperation and collaboration between the two of these that is so rich to those who balance them, those who have befriended and embody them. And while it may seem that one of them overpowers or overcomes the other, light overcomes darkness, etc., actually, actually, it is not occurring that way at all. They work together. Now, when we use light as a metaphor and darkness as a metaphor, then we understand the concept of light overcoming darkness, good overcoming evil. But we are using it as a metaphor versus the energetic understanding, both and light and darkness together, working together, synergizing together, communicating together, cooperating together, collaborating together. Then we appreciate both and we welcome the levity of the light and the depths of the darkness, because with them we create balance, with them we create harmony, with them we create and we experience wholeness. Breathe. Dr. King said, only in the darkness can you see the stars. Breathe. Because on one hand, this is a duh. I mean, that's like common sense. Yes. And yet he is offering us the opportunity into a far deeper understanding, a far deeper embodiment of what it means to, one, don't vilify the darkness, because it is only because of the darkness that you can see the light. But understand its place, understand its purpose, and understand that which the stars are, their place and their purpose. Because the more we understand that, the more we understand our own place and purpose, our own harmony and balance, and our own sense of wholeness and holiness. Now, you may remember this young lady from last week. She was so overwhelmed, but she's back. And this time she is offering us the opportunity. Rather than unlearn, she is offering us the opportunity to understand that if we are going to effectively shift and evolve our consciousness and how we engage in this thing called practicing principle, then we must begin with identifying, shifting, and evolving our paradigms and perspectives. We have to identify our own stuff. We have to shift our own stuff. We have to evolve our own stuff in order to effectively shift consciousness, evolve consciousness, and practice principle. But more on this in a moment. Starlight, star bright, first star I see tonight. I wish I may, I wish I might have the wish I wish tonight. How many of us have wished upon a star? How many of us have truly gazed upon the stars in the heavens and connected the constellations and realized that those connections that we make there are the same connections we have the opportunity to make here? Rather than seeing shapes and configurations out there, can I find shapes and configurations here and here? Can I make connections with others, you, me, them, and create? Am I able to, rather than, as Carl Jung says, the one who looks outside dreams. The one who looks within awakens. Are we willing to no longer simply look out there at the heavens out there, but are we ready to look at the heavens right here? As our Declaration of Principle says, we believe that heaven is within. And it's not simply within, but we, once again, the analogy, the metaphor, yeah, you got it. The kingdom of heaven is within. We believe that heaven is within and that we experience it to the degree that we become conscious of it. right here, not just here, but the wholeness. Are we ready to see the expansiveness that is mirrored out there within our own lives and consciousness? Now, when we look at those stars, what do we see? Little dots of light sparkling and twinkling. But what is that really? See, it plays a game with us, and the game is the same game that you see here. What is this game called? It's called perspective. See, I'm not bigger than Tracy in the way that this image would make you think. Tracy's not bigger than me in this image the way that you would think. This gentleman isn't bigger than the Eiffel Tower the way that it appears. This young woman is not bigger than this building the way that she appears. It's perspective. Those stars that we see, it would appear based on perspective that they are tiny little, twinkle, twinkle, little. It would appear that they are tiny and small. Yet perspective, in the same way that it is applied with that, perspective can be applied to how are we viewing our own lives? How are we holding the attitude of what is our frame of mind? What is our frame of reference when we talk about peace or holiness or God? What is the vantage point or the viewpoint that we are taking when we talk about healing the world, a world that works for all? Perspective. Because it's easy to vilify good or bad, right or wrong. It's easy to dualistically separate. One reason why so many people have an issue with the LGBTQ community, the transgender community, etc., is because people refuse to understand the idea of there is some exists within the concept of the binary, male or female. They will not, and they choose to. Remember, we talked about last week, deliberate ignorance. There are some who refuse to even begin to shift their consciousness, identify their paradigms and perspectives, evolve their paradigms and perspectives regarding what it means. No. It has to be boys are blue, girls are pink. What is this they, them? They refuse to even remotely begin to understand and shift the idea that there are some who are non-binary. There are some who are non-gender conforming. There are some who are gender fluid and gender rich. There are many layers and ways of showing up within this entire spectrum that is God. So we have the opportunity in the same way that perspective can play with our minds and our eyes with, is Tracy that big compared to Reverend Ray? Is that woman that she's a giant compared? The same way that perspective can play an illusory, a trick photography, an Adobe Photoshop kind of game with our minds. We play the same kind of games when I have the viewpoint that this is evil and of the devil, that this is that or that is that, versus me saying, pause. For example, often in New Thought, we play the game of, it's all God and it's all good. I understand where that phrase comes from. I got it. I understand. And yet, when do you address the fact that there are children who literally had their faces shot off as a result of gun violence? When do you, it's all good and it's all God, when you see and hear about the number of people being executed by police officers because they're brown and black, the number of indigenous women who are missing and or murdered? Where does it's all God and it's all good apply to that? Right? See, it's important for us to really anchor and ground our spirituality in a way that changes and transforms the world. Otherwise, it's lip service. Otherwise, it's simply twiddling our metaphysical thumbs and engaging in some form of spiritual bypass, metaphysical malpractice, etc., in a non-life affirming manner. So once again, what is your view? What is your viewpoint? What is your vantage point? What is your attitude? What is the angle at which you are looking at the world, the angle at which you are looking at your relationships? What is your position on X, Y, and Z? What is your frame of mind when it comes to all of these things? In order for us to truly and effectively shift and evolve our consciousness, it is important to understand our current perspective and the desired perspective. So once again, here we are. Twinkle, twinkle, little star. Oh, so say what? Twinkle, twinkle, little star. Well, according to this, PSRJ 1748-2446 AD is 9.9 miles in radius. Is that small, little, tiny? But at the very end of the spectrum, even PSR BO 943 plus 10 is 1.6 miles radius. That's not little. That's not a little in comparison, in perspective, and in the scope of seeing it out in the heavens, we probably wouldn't even see that little star. And yet, 1.6 miles is huge. If you really, the radius, that's huge. So is our perspective of the star actually little? Is it actually, factually, truthfully? Pause. Let it sink in. Because it's important for us to understand that oftentimes these things that we want to quantify within the framework of who's big, who's more famous, who's less famous or less popular, all these things. Size matters not. The number of likes on a Facebook or social media post matters not. Those are external trappings that oftentimes we get bogged down by. Twinkle, twinkle, little self. My egoic self feels unworthy. My perspective is the vantage point that I see myself is small and insignificant. I lack purpose. I lack a reason for being. So we quantify ourselves as being little and small, insignificant. And yet, Yoda is reminding us, size matters not. But why does it not matter? Because as he says, my ally is the force. My ally is God. My ally is the universe. And a powerful ally it is. Is your ally the force, source, God, spirit, the universe, the thing itself? Breathe. Now, on the one hand, because this concept is the force is this other thing. But we could very easily say, are you your own ally? Are you your own advocate? Are you your own co-conspirator in the good and the divine magnificence that you are? For my ally is that which is God, incarnating itself as me. Therefore, I am my own ally. That which I speak creates, because my mental equivalent, the mental equivalent of the divine, creates. And a powerful ally I am. Breathe. Because that's our invitation to become one, to dissolve the concept of duality. And when we talk about this idea of the darkness, well, what if I ask you, is your ally the darkness? What do I even mean by that? Are you able to embrace your shadow self? Are you able to befriend it, to bring it in rather than shun it as the enemy? Are you able to find a strength, a power, a presence even within the darkness? Creativity, like human life itself, begins in the darkness, begins in that place of mystery, as Julia Cameron, the author of The Artist's Way, shares with us. Creativity begins in the darkness. Life begins in the darkness. Manifestation begins in the darkness. So therefore, the darkness cannot be the enemy. Oftentimes, we think of this symbol as yin and yang, or some say yang, yang. It's not either or, it's both and. Yin yang. See, when I reach my arm out towards you, there are muscles and tendons and stuff. Some contract in order for that to happen, and some expand, both and. When you walk, when you move, when you clench your fist or open your hand, some muscles retract and contract, some expand and reach and stretch. Both and, not either or. So now when we think of the energy of this, well, what happens when we embody it? Do we see that we ourselves are the very embodiment of yin and yang, light, darkness? And then we are invited, if we understand that, we are invited to be the light that shines not just upon the darkness, but that shines in the midst of the darkness. To be that creative expression that comes out of the mystery and the darkness. Both and. And also, because I could have done a remix, and also be the darkness that is rich and vibrant in its ability to birth a world that works for all, to birth the truth that heals, to birth the beloved community and oneness. Be both and. That's why I always say, don't just be open at the top, be open at the top and the bottom. See, the tree, which is open at the top, stretches its branches and the leaves to receive the sunlight, to receive the carbon dioxide. But the roots are also open at the bottom, receiving all of the rich nutrients through the darkness of the earth. Both and, not either or, both and. So our invitation is to be the light and be the darkness. Be the light that shines and the darkness that births. Both and. Oftentimes, we tend to shy away from the darkness, however. If you remember from last week, we went through that whole thing about how the devil became that terrifying visage that, right? We went through that whole thing. And if you haven't seen that one, I recommend you go back and check it out. But we vilify the shadow, we vilify the darkness because of all of the things that come with the shadow and the darkness. Fears and triggers, shame and guilt, secrets and things that need to be hidden, worries and unhealed trauma, low self-worth, low self-esteem, low self-care, or the lack of self-care completely, and all of the various red flags that we ignore. All of these things and more fall under the umbrella of one's shadow self. But the moment we begin to say, what am I afraid of? And go to that place, we heal. The moment we identify, remember, identify. You have to identify it first before you can shift the paradigm. Identify it, shift it, evolve it. Identify your fears, shift, evolve, heal. Identify your triggers, shift, evolve, heal. Identify, why do I have secrets? Now, there can be things that are private. I keep my PIN, my social security number, I keep them private so that my identity, quote unquote, is not stolen. It's not a secret. But it very easily, if I say, as I once did years ago, I don't tell anyone that I'm a gay male. I keep it secret. I keep that hidden because of the guilt and the shame and the fear associated with it. But is it really a secret? I'm making it a secret because I'm afraid that if that secret, if the cat is out of the bag, if the secret is revealed, as has been proven to be, there are those who choose to ostracize or ridicule or attempt to abuse or whatever that is. So, what happens though? Do you keep the secret? Jan de Van Zant often would say, you are as sick as your secrets. So, why have a secret? Why allow the guilt and the shame? Identify it, shift it, evolve it, heal. And we have the opportunity to do that with all of these. Identify the worries, identify and shift and evolve and heal. Identify this thing called low self-worth, identify it, shift it, evolve it, and heal. Why am I not caring for myself? Identify, shift, evolve, heal. Come to this place of absolute reconciliation with all aspects of ourselves. There is nothing that we need to run from or hide from. It's us. I cannot hide from my fears. They know where I am hiding and they will show up. I cannot hide or run from my worries. I cannot run from or hide from self-esteem issues. I cannot run or hide from the guilt or shame that comes from being a gay man in the United States of America. I can't run from, I can think I can. I can try, but it's not going to work. So let me come to this place of reconciliation where I understand there's no need for me to feel guilt or shame around this. Identify, shift, evolve, and heal. And then I come to this place of at one meant, where I know and understand I am that which is the isness and allness of all that is. I am God. God incarnating in, through, and as me, which gives me greater capacity to balance yin, yang, to balance open from the top and the bottom, to balance what it means to be both human and divine, to be divine, living this divinely spiritual experience that we call human, both and. Breathe. Because that's our invitation. Rumi says, no one looks for stars when the sun is out. A person blended into God does not disappear. They are just completely soaked in God's qualities. Ernest Holmes says, what is true about God is true about you. No one looks for stars when the sun is out. And when we merge at one-ment, when we and God, when we have the awareness that there is only God, we don't disappear. We don't vanish. We are simply immersed in the activity and the embodiment of all of the qualities of God that we embody, engage in, and practice. So let's revisit this guy. Because oftentimes what we want to do is we want to identify and label and quantify it's good or it's bad. We are either good or bad. That person is either good or bad. And we can think about someone like Jordan Neely, who many people have vilified and said that the Marine who murdered him was justified because Jordan Neely wasn't a good guy. He had many run-ins with the law, and yet, does one's past justify one's murder right now? Think about that. Doesn't matter what someone did then. What are they doing now? Because that's like me saying, well, I'm going to slap Tracy today because Tracy lied to a coworker 4 years ago. What kind of perspective is that? So we are being invited to dissolve the idea of good, bad in that manner and simply recognize yin, yang, yin, right? So when we think about this idea of good or bad, then the yin, the dark side, becomes the place of fear, becomes the place of anger and shame and all of the bad things. And the good is where faith is, and the masculine, and light, and peace. That's why black magic is bad magic, and white magic is good magic. That's why. Because it's easy for us to draw a line and separate and segregate. But that's not the way practicing principle works. See, when we practice principle, we understand this idea, speaking of faith, we understand this idea that faith in and of itself is neither good nor bad, because faith works in two ways. There is life-affirming faith, and there is non-life affirming faith. Faith that is non-life affirming is fear, is worry, it's pessimism. That's using faith in a non-life affirming manner. Well, using faith in a life affirming manner shows up as courage, confidence, and trust, conviction, optimism, or as Holmes said, one who uses the science of mind is a practical idealist. That's using faith in a life affirming manner. But what do we say? You have to have faith, as if faith in and of itself. No, because faith used in reverse is non-life affirming. Fear, worry, guilt, shame, pessimism. Faith used in a life affirming, forward evolving direction and energy is having courage, confidence, conviction, trust, optimism, the capacity to be a practical idealist. So rather than simply break it down to some kind of quick little catchphrase, faith, let's really dive into, is it life affirming or is it life denying? Is the darkness life affirming or life denying? Because darkness in and of itself is not the enemy. Macrina Winderker says, I have seen too many stars to let the darkness overwhelm me, not overcome me, overwhelm me. I have seen too many stars to let the darkness overwhelm me. What about you? And what does she even mean by this? It's the idea that I have felt and identified enough glimmers of hope that I will not let this that I am identifying as the darkness overwhelm me. Think of Viktor Frankl. I have seen enough laughter and love and hope that I will not let the consciousness of the Nazis overwhelm me and overtake me and subdue me. They can touch my body, but they cannot touch me. They can kill the body, but they cannot kill me, because I have seen too many stars to let the darkness overwhelm me. What about you? Breathe. Matthew Fox says, the human does not exist apart from the stars. Human history cannot be divorced from planetary history, galactic history, and creation's entire unfolding history. There is no separation. That's what he's saying. There is no separation between you as a human and that star that you see. There is only one, and that one is God. And that one is God, as that star is the same, that one that is God as you. And the entire history of how God is incarnating and interacting with itself, as itself, through itself, is the history of the planet, the entire galaxy, all of creation, the seen, the unseen, the yet to be seen, and the it will never be seen. It's all one unfolding history, one unfolding expressiveness of the divine. There's only one. And we are invited to be very clear in how that is showing up in our lives. Very clear. A circle, circumference, nowhere, center, everywhere, because there is only one life, and that life is God, and that life is your life right now. There is only one life. That life is God. Now, there are people who say, and that life is God's life. There's only one. There is only one life, and that life is God, and that life, that God is your life now because you are that God now. Sink in, breathe it in, marinate on it. There is only one, and it is you. Breathe, because we are invited once again to let it sink in what Holmes said. Whatever is true of God is true of you. Whatever is true of God is true of you. Whatever is true of God is true of you. Breathe. As I said last week, and it's been changed, so don't think this is the same slide as last week. If you want to truly live, if we want to truly live our best lives, if we want to heal the world, if we want to truly create the beloved community, in other words, a world that works for all, we must recognize and heal our individual shadow and our collective shadow, and come to a more conscious embodiment of our oneness, our one shared history. Doesn't matter. The history of cisgender straight people, the history of LGBTQ people, one history. How do we come together and understand that there is a shared intersection of those histories? Black, white, there's a shared intersection. Because for as long as we separate and segregate, as long as we oppose, for whatever that is, for as long as we do that, there is never going to be that come together in that one place, in that still point. How do we come together? Oh, once again, we must recognize and heal our individual shadow, our collective shadow, our global shadow, our sociological shadow, our financial shadow, our spiritual shadow, and become more conscious and embody our oneness, incarnations of as God. Be it, live it, embody it, speak it, think it, walk it, breathe it, live it, breathe. This week's affirmation, our declaration, I will say it first, and if it resonates, say it with me on the second go round. My light shines brightly always and in all ways. Together, my light shines brightly always and in all ways. And so it is. This week's study questions for the Thursday night, even if you don't show up for Thursday night, these are still for you, still for you. But for those who do show up on Thursday night, here's your questions. 1, what does it look like in your life to balance yin yang? Number 2, when are times that you have practiced life affirming faith and non life affirming faith? What can you do to practice more life affirming faith more consciously, more often? What are some of your shadow self qualities, traits, and behaviors that are detrimental to living your best life? And what can you do to recognize, heal, transmute them to be more beneficial or to release them altogether? 4, what do you do to ensure the collective shadow does not overwhelm or overcome you? Is there anything scary about the light for you? And if so, what do you do to address it? How do you reconcile that there's something about the light that scares you? And lastly, what is the dominant perspective you have of yourself? Now let us close out in prayer. Anchoring in this oneness, this perspective, this vantage point that God is all there is. And because it is all there is, it must be right where each one of us is. It's right here where I am, incarnating in, through, and as me from the top of my head to the soles of my feet. It's all God. That no matter where anyone is, God is. And that recognizing that isn't simply where it stops, but that we are invited to now embody. And through the embodiment, we are invited to, we're not even invited, we are encouraged and called to act accordingly. Once you know that you are God, you must act as one who knows they are God. And in that acting, the invitation then becomes, well, what does it mean for me to live, move, and have my beingness as a 21st century New Thought Good Samaritan? What does it mean for me to be an ambassador and an emissary of the beloved community? What does it mean for me to walk the walk of one who is building a world that works for all? Because once we identify it, once we shift, once we evolve, once we heal, then we create, we manifest, we demonstrate accordingly. So shine, light, shine. Breathe, darkness, breathe, and birth from that great grand mystery, that space of infinite possibility, birth in. Light, shine on. Infinite oneness of love and law, balance, harmony, at one-ment, showing up right here, right now. And I breathe in gratitude, knowing that this is the truth, and that we are living this truth moment by moment, thought by thought, word by word, feeling by feeling, action by action, crafting, creating, communicating, collaborating, cooperating as co-conspirators of love and joy and laughter and life to create the divine, beloved community that we refer to as a world that works for all, one person at a time, one community at a time, one family at a time, one neighborhood at a time, one city at a time, one state at a time, one country and continent at a time, one planet, one galaxy, one universe at a time. And it is because there is only one life, and that life is God, and that life is your life right now. The law says yes. So it is with joy and gratitude that I allow this word to be the truth that it is. Because once you know the truth sets you free. Free to live what we know is answered prayer. And so it is. Namaste, blessings, much love and appreciation, everybody. And I will see you over in Zoom.